the system was the problem?
It's almost military, the way that a school is set up. I did whatever I was told to do, more or less. I went to university, and I had no idea who I was, what I wanted to do with my life, no idea. I'd just basically done what I'd been told to do for 2 decades, and then I somehow just thought that I deserved a good life. The world is not like that. The world's not going to just give you a good life. You have to go out there and you have to get it. And I had no idea how to do that. And that's not why I became a teacher. I became a teacher because I love humanity. I love people. I want to help children grow into really amazing young people.
Why did you choose Romania?
Romania is a place that surprised me. A very beautiful place. I fell in love with the mountains. I fell in love with the people, the village life.
Salutare! Bine ai venit la un nou episod astăzi cu un profesor. Pentru că cum altfel putem să fim mai buni decât a învăța de la acești oameni extraordinari care au grijă de copiii noștri, de tinerețea noastră și prin educația lor de viitorul nostru. Și astăzi este mai interesant pentru că va fi printre puținele podcasturi în care vom conversa în engleză, pentru că invitatul meu este născut în Anglia și a decis după mai multe popasuri prin alte țări să se stabilească aici în România cu un scop foarte nobil, să îmbunătățească și să ajute sistemul de învățământ din România printr-o formă didactică, printr-un aport cu totul și cu totul special, cu scopul de a face copii mai buni, mai puternici. Benjamin, welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
So we will have some questions in Romanian and some in English.
A little test, yeah.
Yeah, but I know that you understand everything, almost what we speak in Romanian. So why did you choose Romania?
Wow, go straight in. I didn't choose Romania originally. I chose a project that was in Romania. I didn't know that the project was here when I first reached out to it. So Romania, actually, if we focus on Romania is a place that surprised me because I chose this project, the school that we started.
What's the name of the school?
Colina International School.
Okay.
And I mean, that was a big leap for me, a big change, which we'll probably talk about in a while. But this is quite a deep question, actually. We'll go into many different areas on this, but...
Go with the flow.
Yeah, I want to just say, though, so I didn't choose Romania, but I moved to Romania nearly 4 years ago now, 3.5 years ago, not really knowing anything about Romania. And it is a beautiful country. It's a country, acum, încerc să vorbesc în limba română. Sunt fericit aici. Și it's my home now. You know, it's a very beautiful place. I fell in love with the mountains. I fell in love with the people, the village life, the school, Colina. It's in Băbășan, which is north of the city. So I did end up choosing Romania.
But you chose to stay.
I chose to stay, exactly. But, you know, if you like, I can explain a little bit about why or how I ended up actually
that will be
coming
great.
to
Please.
Colina. So, so I'm a high school maths teacher. Well, I'm an ex-high school maths teacher. I describe myself now as a teacher of children. And one of the reasons why I ended up here is because I went through that transformation. So I began my career in state schools, Școala de stat in London. And my main job was to ensure that kids would pass the national exams, like the
Testul de evaluare națională.
Exact. And I was like the head of a maths department. And so our job was to ensure that as many kids as possible would get the passing grade, right? And in very short time, in about 2 years, we went from 40% of the kids. It's in a poor part of London, a part of London where there's a lot of social problems, and you know the kids are facing a lot of challenges. And we went from 40% of those children passing the maths exam in our school to 70%. So we had like a remarkable improvement. But the more that we did this, and the more it was celebrated, the more hollow, the more meaningless it started to become to me. Because I was starting to realize that we were putting a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of passion, putting our whole bodies into teaching kids to pass maths tests. But these were kids that had very real problems and very real needs that were, I would argue, more profound than simple mathematical knowledge.
So you're a math teacher.
Yeah. But we didn't have time or motivation or a culture where we were encouraged to really see the kids as kids at all. Like, we were just celebrated because we taught the kids really, really well. When you get this question, give this answer. We drilled them really, really well. And that's not why I became a teacher. I became a teacher because I love humanity. I love people. I want to help children grow into really amazing young people. I think that how our world evolves, what our world becomes, is the biggest predictor of that is what our children know, what they value, what they can do. So how we work with our children, how we spend time with our children matters. And I felt that I wasn't spending my time doing the right thing. So I decided that I was going to leave the UK, leave the state system in the UK, because it's so exam focused that there wasn't really time to connect with children in the way I'd like. And I went to an international school. So I went to a very, I would say, luxury international school. It's called Harrow International School in Beijing. Harrow was the school that Winston Churchill went to in London, and then they started to have international schools around the world. And that school was a real blessing for me, actually, because you've all of a sudden gone from big classes, a lot of pressure in terms of stuff that has to be taught in very little time, and kids that don't necessarily have a lot of support at home and good learning habits. And now you're in an environment where you've got small classes and kids that are highly motivated with a lot of support. And so when I was there, I started to experiment with different types of pedagogy. And so I got myself away from the front of the classroom, away from teaching maths, and instead this was probably even before Khan Academy, or around the time that was starting up, but it was, I started to do things like recording videos of me doing maths, trying to organize activities so that the kids would be the ones in charge of what's happening in the classroom. And I would be talking hardly at all. So I wouldn't be at the front saying, okay, now we're going to learn, I don't know, quadratic equations, and then explain to them how to do it. Instead, I would make them a video, or I'd find a part of a textbook, or I'd find something where they can learn it themselves, and I'd create an environment where they learn it themselves, and I move around the room and I help them. And for 2 years in China, I had the kind of perfect conditions to really begin to understand and master that kind of student-centered way of working with kids.
But it's so intuitive, this, because the kids, do they want to learn? Are the kids motivated by themselves, just go and learn some math with your teacher? Because here in Romania, all the times we are thinking of the teacher to stay in front of the classroom and dictating what we have to do, and punishing system that, okay, that's not good, you're not good enough, it's not good enough. Or maybe somehow one of them, two of them in a class are very, very good, and we have to work with those two because they go to Olympics and so on, and they can represent us, and we are so proud of them, but the rest doesn't matter. So it's so difficult for me to understand how you can learn math or any other study you want to choose, you being in the middle of the kids and inspiring them to decide that they want to learn.
So, I'm going to get into this in a little while, but I don't think that all kids do want to learn maths. I don't think that all kids are motivated to learn maths. I would say about half of the population finds maths utterly confusing and terrifying. I'd say that's a general observation around the world. However, there is a point for pretty much 99% of kids where they are going to want to learn maths because they want to go to university, they want to get out of high school, they want to graduate. So they're motivated to learn it. Maybe not for the most profound reasons and not for internal reasons, but they do eventually become motivated to learn it because they need to pass a test, right? So in China, that was very much, I'd say, the paradigm. And in China, there was a lot of pride in the students in being able to overcome tests and things like that. The culture was maybe a little bit different. So there was that internal motivation.
So they have that goal to pass the exam, to go forward to the university and so on.
Yeah, in that far East Asian culture, I think that there's a lot more intrinsic respect for academic study.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Which really played into my hands in terms of being able to explore these pedagogies, because you've got kids that wanted to work.
Nice.
But you've just made me realize, as you say this now, I then moved. I left China because at that time, it's pretty full on China. Quite a lot of pollution at the time. And it wasn't somewhere I saw myself living long term. So after 2 years, I moved to Buenos Aires, to Argentina. And the culture there is kind of the opposite. You know, it's gone from very disciplined, very, you know, we're going to all follow the same and we're going to move forwards together, to very individual, quite Latin, right? You know, I'm very chilled out.
The opposite.
Different, right?
Different, yeah.
And but what I saw there, I took this pedagogy with me there, and what I saw there actually was working with kids the way that I developed. It would lead to pretty much the same outcomes in terms of results if the kids didn't become motivated. Certainly not worse. They'd be the same, if not slightly better. But I was building relationships with the kids. And when I was working with the kids in the way I worked with them, which basically meant I got out of the way and just motivated them to work and created the conditions where they would work together, they were developing skills around collaboration, around communication, around creativity, around critical thinking. They were having to almost produce their mathematical education rather than just consume like what I'm telling them to do. So, you know, I became more and more passionate around this type of pedagogy. And the reason why I became so passionate about it is because it's a pedagogy where you start to connect on a human level. Because if I'm standing at the front of a room and I'm maybe only teaching the 2 Olympiad kids, or at best I'm actually reaching all of them, but I'm not actually doing anything interpersonal with them. It's not very didactic. It's not two-way. It's one way. It's me at the front. It's my space, and I'm giving you the information. And what any of us need to thrive, and what any of us need to learn and grow, is agency. We need agency and we need trust. We need to be given the chance to do things, because we learn when we do things. We learn from our mistakes. We learn from trying things. And in the majority of classrooms in the world, the focus is just on giving the knowledge, focusing on the knowledge. And the kids end up doing most of the learning, I would argue, maybe in their bedrooms at home, revising for tests when the test comes a lot closer. And I think that's a waste of time. I think they can be doing that in the classroom with the teacher there, with their friends there, learning from each other. So that's something I became very, very passionate about. And I started to realize that there was something that I wanted to happen in the world. There was like a very deep purpose that I started to connect with. And that was myself. I was seeing that I was less of a teacher of maths. A teacher of maths is someone that's focused primarily on maths and on controlling and manipulating their students so that they learn exactly what they need to learn, when they need to learn it, how they need to learn it. So I'm controlling everything. I'm like a puppet master, the puppet master of maths or something. And I was going from that, which is how I was trained to be and how almost society expects you to be as a teacher, to what I would call as a teacher of children. And instead of being focused on the maths, I was more focused on the kids. Like, who is this child in front of me? How's their day been? What fears have they got? What are they feeling good about? What do they need? And I found that when I had that pedagogy, I could start to focus on that child. And then not only help them learn maths, but I could really connect with them and be a mentor to them or an ally, make them feel seen. That's what, I mean, the fundamental need that we all have as human beings is connection. And schools, even though you've got hundreds, if not thousands of people in one space, they're bereft of connection quite often. And so I built a classroom that was based more on focusing on who the kids are, what their needs are, and how can we all connect. And then on top of that, building mathematical knowledge, because it is important that we learn things in school, that we learn academic content.
Agree.
Yeah?
Agree.
But we start with that base of our shared humanity and of learning the skills that we're going to need, particularly today when we don't know what the world's going to look like in 5 years, 10 years, 50 years. We have no idea. It's very tough to say this is the knowledge you're going to need. I think what we can say with absolute certainty is that if children know how to learn, if children know what healthy relationships look like and how to work on those and how to be in those, if children learn that they can bring their ideas to life, that they can have a dream and make a plan and do something, I think if they learn those things, they're probably going to have quite a good life. And I think that's far more important and urgent in a school than specific mathematical theories, things that there is value in learning, But I think you need to look after that core first.
Agree with everything what you said, but there's still an exam.
Yeah.
So the way they make, the way they feel about the exam, before the exam and after the exam, depending on the how well went the exam.
Yeah.
It's important for them.
It's so interesting.
We made it important for them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting you shared this, because I kind of, my relationship with exams has been an interesting one. Because I was obviously very focused on exams when I was in the UK. When I was going through this change I'm talking about, I became very anti-exams. I became very idealistic. Kids shouldn't have to do exams. We just need to change the system, etc., etc. Exams are just meeting the needs of the adult world, not of the children. It's so we can filter and organize them into winners and losers and things like that. And many of those things might have kernels of truth in them, right? They might be true, but they're not. It's not realistic to say we're not going to have exams, right? And as I've kind of matured even more, if you like, I'd say what I've learned is exams are really, really important. And if you're going to meet the needs of kids, you have to prepare them really, really well for exams. But another thing that I've learned is that taking an exam, the skill of sitting an exam, is quite an easy skill to teach. It's a lot easier than teaching how to be creative, how to be a good communicator, how to be a critical thinker. Those are difficult skills to learn. And those skills will actually help you in an exam as well. But the skill of actually taking an exam, reading a question, making sure you understand it, making sure that you've got the timing in the right order, making sure you lay your work out neatly, all of that stuff, that's quite easy to teach. So the way I view education now is we shouldn't even be thinking about exams until maybe 3 or 4 years before the kids have to face a very important exam. So let's take, if it was the Romanian BAC, for example, I mean, you've got the national evaluation as well. So I would be saying kids when they're about 11 or 12, you need to start exposing them to tests because they've got a very high stakes test when they're 14. And so testing will become a part of their education from there on. But the way that they're preparing for those tests, the predominant focus of education, of teachers, of adults, should be on helping kids to develop the kind of skills I'm talking about and trusting them to learn the content, trusting them to learn what they need to learn. Because they really care. They want those results. They know that I need this result to get to this high school, or I need this result to get to this university. What we need to do is to create the right conditions where they can really learn things whilst building skills.
After Buenos Aires, what happened next?
So
because your journey is so important to connect the dots, till Cluj-Napoca.
So I had a great time in Buenos Aires. So
because of the relations that you had with the kids.
Yeah, I mean,
fulfillment.
Well, so this is very interesting about what happened there, and I think it's a credit to that school in a way. So I developed these practices. I did them. I became seen and recognized for doing that, and I ended up being promoted. So I went from being the head of the maths department to the head of the secondary school to the headmaster, the general director of the whole school. And it's a big school. It's 2,000 kids, 400 staff.
Oh, really?
About 200 years old. So the school itself is, I think, older than Argentina, right? So it's a proper institution with history. And it was a great honor to lead it. But what I noticed was I was being promoted in order to kind of bring to life the things I'm talking to you about. So we'd call it a competency-based school, to build a school that focuses firstly on building skills in the kids, right? What I didn't know until I was in the leadership role, where there was no one else I could blame, it was down to me now, right? The buck stops with you. It's really, really, really hard, if not impossible to do, because the actual technology, the system of a school doesn't allow the agency that you need kids to have, because a school has this deeply embedded culture of a timetable, of discrete subjects, might be uniforms, of basically kids in a school. It's not questioned that kids are told where to go, when to go there, even how to go there, what to wear, what to learn, when to learn, how to. They're told everything, right? It's planned to the last detail. It's almost military the way that a school is set up. And what we've got now is we've got people in this technology, in this system, that are thinking like I am and are saying, we want to nurture kids, we want kids to develop skills, we want to prepare kids for 21st century life. But they're doing it in a system that is almost designed to do the opposite. It's not designed to give agency. It's not designed to empower. It's designed to make you feel the same, and it's designed to make you follow and comply. So I was seeing this as the head of a school that was amazing, but we could only get so far because you're hitting like a glass ceiling of of things you can't really question.
So and the system was the problem.
The system was the problem, and down to like how teachers are prepared, what teachers think their jobs are. Mm-hmm. Because many teachers will say, my job isn't to get to know kids. Sounds absurd, but it's not, and it's not unreasonable for a teacher to say that.
So it's just the student number one.
Exactly.
Not
my
Andre.
Job is to teach maths.
It's not Jack. It's
their
not
job
Andre.
is to learn it, right? And that's like, I mean, it's true, it's their jobs to learn it. But if you really want them to learn it, you have to connect with them. Mm-hmm. You have to meet them on a human level. And that requires vulnerability. And many teachers will struggle with that. And who am I to say to a teacher, you have to start doing this if you've been working that way for 10 or 20 years? It's a very difficult thing to address, and everyone deserves to feel competent, happy, like they're doing well at work. And it's not okay from one day to the next just to change everything and say, now what you're doing isn't good enough, but it was good enough yesterday. So it's a very complicated thing to change, and school leaders all over the world know about this. So how did they end up in Romania? Well, I was always talking about. Sorry, you want to?
Yeah. No. So the next country was Romania
after Argentina. So I was in Argentina for quite a long time.
Okay.
And one of my colleagues in Argentina, she was always doing research, like just very, very talented researcher, and she was on all the social networks as well. And she sent me this manifesto one day. And she said, Ben, you need to read this manifesto. It reminds me so much of your energy. I'll never forget it. Okay. And I opened the manifesto and I read it, and I physically felt the hit. I was like, this is it. And it was for a school called the Colina Learning Center, which is now Colina International School. Mm-hmm. And it didn't have any more detail. It was just a website with this manifesto. And they'd obviously been pushing it on social media. And there was a contact. So I contacted them. I spoke to the founder who'd driven this forward, Andrea Mitra, and I said, how on earth are you doing this? This is amazing. And they were like, we're not doing it yet. It's an idea. We're bringing it to life, do you want to help? And so we started to talk every week and, build ideas. I mean, they already had a lot of ideas, but think, how do we bring this down to earth? How do we make this reality? And one thing led to another, and they invited me to come here. They said, do you want to come here and lead the school? And my first response was like, no way. Like, I'm very happy with my career. I'm very happy with myself in terms of, I didn't imagine leading such a great school at this stage in my career, but it was like an earworm. It just kept going, and it was like, hang on, this is literally what you were born to do. Like, you want to reform education. You want teachers of maths to turn into teachers of children.
So this is one thing about the manifesto that you really liked. What are the things about the manifesto from Colina impressed you?
It was just because it was just all about being human. Mm-hmm. It was all about seeing children as individuals, going to meet them where they are, helping them to thrive, understanding that the whole community is needed for deep learning to happen. They had one thing that said it takes a village, right? And it does. It doesn't take silos of classrooms doing things.
Let's add some infos about Colina. What is Colina, and briefly about the school, because nobody knows where is Colina, what is Colina, and
so Colina International School is now a school from K2 through to middle school, through to the 8th grade. It's an American international school.
Okay.
It's it's part of the Colina Noa development, which is in Băbuțiu in Vulteren, just north of Cluj.
35 kilometers?
It's from Maușani. It's about 20 kilometers from the north side of Cluj.
Yeah. Outside Cluj.
Yeah. And in the years we've been running, we've gone from 11 kids that we started with. We have 75 kids now, and we're continuing to grow each year. And essentially, well, let me tell you a story actually.
Yeah, please.
So I decided to take that leap. Because I realized this was basically my chance to lean into my purpose, into my why, to to really do what I felt I was meant to be doing with my career. But when I arrived here in Romania, in Colina, I obviously started to doubt my decision a bit at some point. I was like, what have I done? You know, and I was, you know, because you've gone from like this big established school, you feel quite important in that role. And then all of a sudden you're in a village in Transylvania with a small group of people. And I started to say to them, like, why are you here? Why did you send your kids here? Like, what are we doing here? And the thing that came out of the manifesto, the main thing that everyone said is, we're preparing our kids for life. Yeah. And I was like, you know how sometimes something looks great on paper, but then when you get into the reality and you're living it, you start to see where there needs to be a bit more work, a bit more development, right? And, you know, I would say, well, you know, every school's preparing kids for life. What does it mean for us? What do you mean? How do we know a kid's prepared for life? And they'd say, you know, they're prepared. And I'd be like, we can't build a school just based on the idea that they're prepared. And so we went through a process as a community of saying, what does prepared mean for us? And we got to the three things, which I think I mentioned a bit earlier in our conversation, but the three things that at Colina we say prepared means is, and it's a promise now. So if to kids in Colina, we promise them that we're going to do everything we can to ensure that they become amazing learners, that they can learn anything they need to learn on their own, that we help them to know what healthy relationships look like and help them to be able to form and enjoy good relationships in their life, because we know that people that have good relationships, good friendships, they live longer and happier lives. And that we will help them to realize that they're very important, that they belong, and that they are definitely good enough to bring their ideas to life. They're allowed to have ideas, and that they've got the skills to actually bring those ideas to life and have an impact in the world. So we've got these like three core promises that we developed. And from those three core promises, we then looked at the curriculum and said, if this is what we want for these kids when they graduate from our school, how are we going to make sure that happens? So we looked at the curriculum. Because we're an American international school, we were able to piece together parts of different curricula. We didn't have to just follow the Romanian curriculum. And so we took a skills model that was connected to building kids that can learn, building kids that can have healthy relationships, and building kids that can lead in the world. And we took this as our core curriculum alongside with English and maths. And we said, we're going to build a school that, first of all, develops these skills and makes sure that kids are good with literacy and good with numeracy. And we said, well, if that's our core curriculum, obviously we also have social sciences, natural science. We do it, we're a school, but this was like the core. Mm-hmm. And then we said, well, if we're going to ensure the kids learn this, how do we want them to learn that? Because to learn skills is very different to learning knowledge. Right, you have to do stuff. So we have three main pedagogies, three main types of activity that happen in our school, and they're basically project-based learning, social and emotional learning, and mastery-based learning. And those essentially are, so social and emotional learning, it means it's space where we teach the kids how to recognize and understand what their feelings and needs are, create a safe space where they can talk about them and share them. We create a space where kids are able to think about what they want to manifest or what they want to achieve, and then commit to it, come up with a plan to set goals and be held to account for achieving goals. These are the kind of things that we're focusing on in that area. And we do that every day through a daily crew meet. So all the kids, however old they are, we start the day with a crew meet where we're either connecting or we're holding each other to account for the goals that we're trying to achieve. Because the kids in our school have a lot more agency, they're more empowered, so they have more responsibility. And with that responsibility, you need to have a high level of accountability so you can be rigorous. So that's the social and emotional learning. I said project-based learning. So the kids do a lot, like half of the time in the school, the kids are working on project-based learning. So we do 5 big projects each year. And basically, our projects are almost co-designed with the children. So we look at what's going on in the world, what the children are interested in, and we come up with like a big idea, like something that they're interested in, and we design a project around it. So at the moment, for example, literally today, the project that we're about to start next week with our older learners, it's called România-to and basically they're going to become almost like what would I describe it as? Travel agents or people that represent Babuțu, and they're going to try and learn more about Babutsu and learn more about Transylvania, and they're going to create videos, brochures, promotional material that explain to people why it's such a beautiful place and why it's an important place to be.
That's great.
So they're going to learn.
So good, yeah.
So they're going to learn a lot of history and
they
geography.
Will be more aware about the place and everything.
Yeah, and they'll probably make a podcast like this about it. Something like that. So we have project-based learning. But when kids are doing projects, they're developing the skills I've been talking about. When you do projects,
you have to let them edit the videos if you're making podcasts.
Oh, we do
around
everything.
That.
Yeah, everything. They do
the
everything.
outcome to be their success,
Exactly. Or the failure. They're allowed to fail.
Or the failure, yeah.
In fact, we work with the project-based learning. We're obsessed with drafts. So when kids say, like, we've finished, we're like, great, that's your first draft. And then we get the other kids as well. We say, how can we improve this? What do you need to do to improve this? And they have a discussion, and then they'll go away and they'll try and improve it. And we try to get kids to do 2 or 3 drafts before they say this is the final thing. So, for example, if they were making, I don't know, let's imagine that they managed to get the mayor of Voltaren in for an interview, which is quite feasible. They might manage to do that. Then maybe they make the first edit and everyone looks at it and goes, oh, I think the music could be better, or you could have used this clip instead of that clip. And then they'll make the second one, and maybe by the third one they'll be happy with it. But we have a focus. Again, rigor has to come through all of this. There has to be rigor in everything that we're doing. And the rigor there comes from, we're trying to produce high quality, beautiful work. Children can do that. So that's the project-based learning. And then the final one I mentioned is mastery-based learning. Mastery-based learning is an approach to academic learning, I would say, where you don't move on to the next thing until you've shown you've mastered the thing before. So you work through a system where, because maths, for example, it's very spiral. You have to, and this is where a lot of math education falls down. For example, as a high school maths teacher, I can tell you that many, many kids that got to me in the 11th and 12th grade were doing quite advanced algebra, but they didn't know fractions. It's very normal. They didn't really understand fractions. So then when you go into doing some of the algebraic processes, it doesn't make sense to them. So we have a system where, because we've got quite small groups, we make sure that we work closely with the kids. So the kids are working on what they need to work on in English and maths. That's in there, like Vygotsky talked about the zone of proximal development. We make sure that what the kids are working on is in like the next thing that they need to learn, so that they can keep building their language and their literacy skills. So every day we do maybe an hour of English and an hour of maths. So the day is built up by the social and emotional learning time, some mastery-based academic time, and then the afternoon is projects and arts and things like this.
And exams are different?
Well, so the only exams that come into our school are, and they're optional because we're an international school, like we have Romanian families who will want their kids to do the national evaluation. Mm-hmm. So our math curriculum.
So they can choose that.
Yeah. So our math curriculum, even though we're a US international school, we agreed with our accrediting body that we would adapt the math curriculum, so that it's actually mapped onto the Romanian one. Mm-hmm. So that even though the kids are doing it in English, they're prepared for the Romanian national evaluation. Mm-hmm. And then obviously we're an international school, so we do it all in English. Mm-hmm. So we actually offer an after school for Romanian for the families that want to be prepared for that. Yeah.
But this is for the high school too? Or just for...
No, this is just for Colina International School, for the middle school.
Mm-hmm, for the middle school.
Yeah, so we have a dream to open a high school.
Okay, what's the dream about the high school?
So we want to open a high school in Cluj-Napoca, hopefully in September 2027. The dream for the high school is to have a high school which offers 3 pathways. So the children in our school could do the Romanian baccalaureate. The children in our school could do, for example, A-levels, the Cambridge exams. Or they could do something called the Global Impact Diploma, which is it's a diploma system, like a less academic approach, if you like, for kids that aren't academic. It was developed actually in the American School of Budapest, and it's recognized by quite a lot of universities in America. So the idea is we've got an international exam pathway, a national Romanian exam pathway, and then a non-exam pathway for families that think that's appropriate. And then we build the school around making sure that using mastery-based learning, the kids can learn what they need to learn for their chosen pathway. Mastery-based learning, when you're with older kids, involves quite a lot of tests. Every 4, 5, 6 weeks, you're doing a test, because that's how you show the mastery, so you can go on to the next part.
The progress.
Exactly, you show the progress, yeah. What we find in Colina now, the kids ask for tests. They ask for tests. So at the end of a project, they're like, can you give us a test on the...
I want to know my level.
Exactly, exactly. It's very interesting. Like, we didn't expect that. And this was part of my own journey of realizing that testing isn't evil or wrong. It's how you do it. It's actually a good tool, but it needs to be used in the right way. Yeah.
And you say that by September, we will have the high school here in Cluj?
September 2027, that's the dream.
27.
The big, hairy, audacious goal. Yeah, that's what we want.
What do you need in order to have this dream come true?
So there's two things you need. You need to have the organizational part arranged, so accreditation, etc. And we've made a lot of progress in that area.
But with the accreditation, it's much easier for you because you already have a school, so you know the path.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to follow the same method, but this will be a separate school because we want to open it in Cluj.
Okay.
We don't want it to be in Băbuțu because I think in a high school, you need to be, a high school is where you're bridging the gap between childhood and adulthood. And I think it's very important to be in a place where there's lots of real life, for want of a better word, happening.
So the kids from Băbuțu will follow this school here. Our hope is that the kids from Băbuțu would choose to come to this school and would open it up to other children as well. But so at the moment, the accreditations.
We need the accreditations, and we've already been working with some colleagues in Bucharest as well on looking at how microcredits can complement the Romanian curriculum, and we've had lots of really encouraging progress in that area. The other thing that we need is obviously a space. So we're currently looking for a space where we're going to host the first iteration of the school. It will be a small school, so we don't need a huge space, but we need maybe a space with a communal area and 4 to 6 classrooms, to get started. And the other thing we would need is funds to actually pay for that space. So that's what we're currently working on.
Asta e momentul ca skill-ul meu de antreprenor și audiența pe care o am să o activez și să spun că ceea ce am auzit acum despre educație mi se pare că mi-atinge sufletul. Și probabil că unii dintre voi, antreprenorii ocupați, care sunteți uneori nemulțumiți de actuala formă de învățământ, ar trebui să ridicați mâna și să spuneți, da, mi-ar plăcea mult ca această școală să se întemeieze în una dintre spațiile pe care le dețin. Sau știu eu pe cineva care are un spațiu ce se potrivește, iar pe partea cealaltă de cum se susține financiar ca un sâmbure într-o instituție de învățământ să fie plantat acolo unde trebuie, ca ulterior să aibă un teren fertil de creștere, ar trebui să ridice mâna și să spună, da, vreau să vin și să susțin și eu proiectul acesta, pentru că în cele din urmă, dacă reușim să aducem un pic de soare alternativ actualei forme de învățământ, poate ne va ajuta pe noi toți să fim mai buni. It was much easier for me to say it in Romanian, and I have a lot of viewers, that almost all of them in Romanian. So, but I think that it's something that we all need to contribute, because the change that you are planning to make, it's so important. It's so important for Cluj, for the business ecosystem. It's important. Yeah. But it's important for us as individuals, because the things that you are showing here, you are explaining to us, to all of us, they are so different that we are used to see in the Romanian school system.
Yeah.
Okay, so you need a space and you need money.
Yeah.
But you also need teachers like you.
Of course we do. Well, that's a great question. We need... So one of the ways, there's a few things I'd say about that, which is firstly, we started talking about Romania at the beginning of this conversation, and I think that Romanians, you can be quite hard on yourselves. You can be quite self-critical. And I've got to say that the talent that I have met here in Cluj-Napoca, not only working in Colina International School, but around the city, it blows my mind. It did actually from the first moments when I started working with Colina. There's so many talented people in Romania. What you need for the high school I'm talking about is to have the training in place so that they're prepared. So I think that there's absolutely an abundance of talent. The other thing that we do is with the way that the high school was created, I talked about there's two really important elements to schooling, right? There's that you do need to learn the academic content, and you do need to be seen, you need to feel connected, and you need to develop that those skills. And you can actually separate that to some extent. So you can have teachers maybe with a more of a psychology profile, very human-centric profile, that are working on the social and emotional learning elements. And then you can have more academic profiles working on the mastery-based learning. The thing, I think, with good preparation and finding the right profiles, which we've had an amazing success with in Colina so far, I'm very, very confident and optimistic that we'll put a great team together, yeah.
And also because of the trainings that you have?
Yeah, yeah.
So...
I mean, I can, just to say about that, we spend at least, I would say, 2 hours a week on average doing professional development together as a team in Colina now. It's ongoing. You have to do that if you want to create the culture and the practices that are bringing to life the things I'm talking about. You don't just describe it once and then say, like, go and do it. You have to live it yourself, and you have to create that environment.
I have to say something about bringing it to life. And I switched to Romanian again.
Please.
Avem nevoie de spațiu, avem nevoie de bani, avem nevoie de curaj. Dar mai avem nevoie de oameni care, dacă nu sunt în Cluj, se mută în Cluj. Ne uităm la Ben și ne gândim că a plecat din UK ca să plece în Argentina și după aia să vină în România și să constate că aici este un munte de talent. Și cu un munte de talent putem să transformăm. Și dispus să vină și să facă trainingurile necesare ca pe un cadru didactic care deja profesează, foarte valoros, sau către cineva care are înclinații în zona aceasta pedagogică, să vină și să zică, ok, împreună putem să o facem pentru că putem să ne dezvoltăm. Și până la urmă, apropo de bringing it to life, e legat de sufletul și de omul care dă viață spațiului respectiv. Și cred că ar trebui să ne uităm și aici, pentru că dacă echipa este potrivită, banii will follow, spațiul se va găsi, drive-ul deja există. Și nu m-am putut să nu mă opresc să zic asta pentru că mi se pare prea valoroasă inițiativa și să nu mă uit în ochii voștri și să vă zic. Poate acum în timp ce te uiți, te gândești, parcă niște timp petrecut cu Ben în filozofia aceasta m-ar ajuta să fiu un profesor mai bun. Ok, great.
Thank you, yeah.
Okay, and now you are confident, so you are doing it.
We're doing it, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I feel like it was a very, that you've got a beautiful word in Romanian for it, like a hinge moment for my life when I chose to leave Argentina and to come here to Romania. And a part of that was, the reason was to show the world that, like, an education that is truly focused on the learners, that's focused on developing skills, on seeing learners, on making sure that no kid leaves school feeling unseen, feeling like they're not valued, feeling like they're not good enough. I know that that's possible. And I moved here because it was a perfect opportunity to show that. But my mission isn't accomplished until the kids are 18. So we are going to have a high school because that's how we're going to, I would argue that the innovation is more important for adolescents, more important. And school, as it currently is, makes even less sense for adolescents. From, you can look at things like, they're quite independent adolescents. You don't necessarily have to be running them around everywhere. They are able to start being more empowered. And, one example, there's a lot of research that shows that adolescents really struggle to get up early in the morning. Yet it seems that the older the kids get, the earlier we start school. I'm not saying what time we'll start school in our high school, but it's a debate we should have. We need to build a school that's based on the research. There's a ton of research that shows what creates the best learning, what creates the best conditions for young people to thrive. And we need to put all that together to build a school that's truly excellent and meets their needs.
This is a long journey,
It is, yeah.
And maybe if you're thinking in high school, the questions that pop on in my mind is, this is the first one and you're thinking about another one, maybe in Bucharest and in other cities, or you're focusing on the first one and after that you'll see what's happening?
I think I think it takes time to build anything that's truly excellent and truly quality. And I think it's not, for me, it's not the time to think about recreating anything. One of my guiding quotes that helps me as I'm thinking how to approach things, not only in education but in leadership, is by George Box. And he said, all models are wrong, but some models are useful. And even though we've had success with Colina, that doesn't mean it's going to work in another city just like that. It's really good for our community. And I think there's things about that you can take and you can put somewhere else. But the idea of like having a franchise of schools, for me, misses part of the point. Because if you're focusing on a school being built around the kids in Cluj have different experiences and different values in general than maybe kids in Buenos Aires. Or even kids in Bucharest. So you have to actually look at your community when you build a school to think, what is this community? What are the needs of this community? And how do I build a school that meets those needs?
But this is fantastic because it's much easier to build a school if the community supports you.
Of course, yeah.
And that means that it's in the Cluj community's hands to help you build a school.
Yeah.
It's not so difficult if you approach like this, you know?
Yeah. I've seen when you're doing something for your higher purpose, when you're doing something like that, people do come forward and they do help. I've been very moved and touched by the support of many people since I started walking this path of trying to really create a different type of education.
And do you have like a pitch to share with the Cluj community? Or?
Yeah, and it's evolving all the time. You know, we have a very
that's
clear.
For sure. That's for sure.
Yeah, because I've met some wonderful people that have given me some very honest feedback. So yeah, I do have a pitch. Yeah, I'm happy to share that with anyone.
Yeah, if you can share you can share it with a link. Maybe I can put in the description of the videos, and we can change it because I know because it's based on the researches you make. Yeah, maybe it can influence the content from the pitch.
That's a great idea. Thank you. Yeah.
Because the first thing is how can I help? And the outcome is if any of the Cluj students are following this school and they will be like, I don't know, superheroes for us, for all of us.
The pioneers.
It's almost not about the money. It's having this different school and this approach when it comes to your kids. About your kids, it's not about money.
No,
it's a simple decision to make. So I think that all the wealthy people in Cluj will be attracted about this idea.
I'd love to share actually a personal anecdote that goes a bit before what we started to talk about, which was so we mentioned I'm from England, and I was a pretty good student at school. You know, I got very good grades. I did whatever I was told to do, more or less. Went to university, good university. I graduated, and I froze. I had no idea who I was and what I wanted to do with my life. No idea at all. I'd just basically done what I'd been told to do for 2 decades, and then I somehow just thought that I deserved a good life. The world is not like that. The world's not going to just give you a good life. You have to go out there and you have to get it. And I had no idea how to do that. No idea. And I don't want people to arrive in that situation because I'm sure I'm not the only one that arrives in that situation. I don't want that to happen. And, I started to learn a lot of important things because I decided to go traveling after that happened. Because I didn't feel able to make a decision. I was even scared of failing. Another thing that happens in school, you're scared of failing. If I apply for a difficult job and don't get it, then that means I'm not good enough. I don't want that to happen to me. I'm going to just run for a few years. So I went traveling. And some of the most important lessons that I know I learned when I was traveling, and there's one I'll just share because I think it is important. And I think schools, in a very different way, can recreate these kind of experiences, and they have to. So I needed to make some money when I was in Australia. And I learned that you can get a job in the mines in Western Australia. It's very well paid work, but it's hard manual work. And I'm a middle class, young man from the UK with the softest hands you can imagine, right? And I rock up in this mining town and I have this job called Drillers Offsider. And the first week of doing that job, I was crying myself to sleep. I had blood pouring down my hands, cuts everywhere, because you're holding quite heavy tools with shards of metal in them, and you're lifting quite heavy things, and I was stiff and had cuts on my arm, cuts on my hand. I was tired because you're getting up at about 3:30, 4 in the morning, and you're going out into the outback to drill holes. And I just wanted to stop. Every bone in my body wanted to stop. But I was like, no, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep doing this. And what happened was, for me, nothing short of a miracle, because I started to see just how strong we are as people. And this was physical, right? I could see it, but those cuts turned into calluses, right? So my hands became hard. My body grew the thick skin where it needed it. The muscles grew where I needed the muscles. My brain learned the way I needed to balance. And within a month, it went from being the hardest thing I've ever done to easy money. And I did it for 3 months. And why I'm sharing this is because I wish I knew when I was a teenager that I could do difficult things. And I wish I knew when I was a teenager just how adaptable I am. And I think everyone deserves the opportunity to really learn who they are when they're young, because that's when you're meant to be doing it. You shouldn't have to wait until you finish doing what you're told to be done by adults, by society. Obviously, life is all about exploration, but I do think that we can allow our youngsters to enjoy more experiences while they're at school.
And with this confidence to choose better for your life.
Exactly, yeah.
I know that they have prepared something in Romanian. Do you want to share with us those 3
oh, wow. Yeah.
sentences?
Educație construiește oameni, nu doar cunoștințe. I think that's very important.
It is.
Este important. Copiii trebuie să înveți să fie independenți și să construiască relații sănătoase. Și școala trebuie să pregătească copiii pentru viață.
That is great, because it now is the essence of everything I understood for you here in this interview. So that's why I was eager to hear in Romanian from you.
Yep. Când obiectivul meu de formez o școală, o liceu la Cluj, știu că trebuie să învăț cum să vorbesc în limba română și acum am curs de limba română și știu că este important că proiectul meu nu este un proiect doar pentru oamenii că pot să vorbesc în engleză.
Dar trebuie să adăugăm că tu înțelegi ce vorbim noi în limba română.
Da.
Și că e absolut normal ca în limba nativă să te exprimi elaborat și să te faci înțeles. Pentru toți e somehow the same, cumva la fel. Și în momentul în care cunoști mai multe limbi, uite, tu știi și spaniolă, și atunci când trebuie să switch between them, it's a little bit harder. Dar știu că respectul pentru România și limba română deja există la tine. Chiar înainte de interviu ne-am gândit dacă să adresez întrebările în limba română ca tu după aia să poți răspunde în limba engleză, dar cred că e foarte clear that you are struggling with learning Romanian, so yeah. E ceva ce apreciez, mi se pare că este o formă de respect și efortul și dedicația pe care o ai este foarte apreciabilă. Este apreciabilă.
Mulțumesc.
Is there anything that you want to add, because we are at the end of the interview, but if something, I don't know, we missed it out?
No, maybe I would just say, any of you that are parents that are listening, I know that what I'm sharing can sound quite scary and quite different. And, you know, I'm a parent myself, and I understand that we only want to make decisions that we know are going to be with all the information we have, the best decisions that we can for our children. The one thing that I see people often doing, though, is taking false security. There is no connection between good performance in schooling as it currently is and having a successful and happy life. There isn't. And so I know that what we all want as parents is kids that are successful and happy. And I just want to invite you to really explore with your kids, because every family is different, but what is it your kid needs so that they're likely to have a successful and a happy life? And safety comes from within us. It's from helping kids to know that they're secure, that they know themselves, that they're loved. That's the safety that kids need. It's not knowing that they've got a profession where they're always going to have a job. If you've got that safety inside you, if you've got that resilience inside you, if you've got the growth mindset inside you, you're going to overcome whatever challenges life throws at you. And that's what I want to inspire as many of you as possible to focus on with your children.
Thanks a lot, Ben. And good luck with your project. I'm here to support you.
Thank you, Sandu. Thank you. Mulțumesc.
Vă mulțumesc mult că v-ați uitat la noi și cred că împreună, în comunitate, putem să dezvoltăm. Și când ai lângă tine un om atât de pasionat și experimentat, care și-a lăsat țara în spate și care atunci când a ajuns aici, chiar dacă n-a decis să vină aici, a decis să rămână aici și are o perspectivă atât de interesantă, atât de sănătoasă, poate că ar trebui noi, ca și comunitate, să ne gândim cum să punem umărul și să dezvoltăm împreună. Pentru că o facem pentru noi, o facem pentru noi, o facem pentru copiii noștri și de ce nu o facem pentru viitorul țării noastre. Noi nu suntem în această discuție pentru a critica cum funcționează actualul sistem de învățământ. Noi suntem aici să zicem că putem să mai aducem alternative și să dezvoltăm împreună o școală care poate se potrivește la nivel individual pentru mai mulți. Vă îmbrățișez și nu uitați, dați un subscribe acolo pentru că doar 15% dintre voi ați reușit să faceți asta și ne ajută pe noi să avem energie și putere să dezvoltăm mai departe acest proiect în care vrem să aducem în fața voastră oameni valoroși care să vă ofere informații valoroase pentru ca voi să vă dezvoltați ca buni profesioniști.